Hello, patrons. What's going on? Jeff Mosher here, and I'm ready for the second interactive video mailbag. So I'm going to take your Eagles questions. I'm going to give answers, and again, I want to appreciate everybody for signing up. And not only am I going to do this mailbag once a week, but I also encourage anybody to reach out to me through Patreon, through the message function. Give me feedback. Let me know what you like. Let me know what you don't like. Let me know what you want to see more of. Know what you want to see less of. Hope everybody's enjoying the coverage so far and getting their money's worth. And I really appreciate everybody's patronage and support. So thanks very much. Before I get to the questions, I want to remind everybody to check out the Inside the Birds podcast I do with Adam Kaplan and former Eagle Billy Osborne. We do it once a week. You can find it. We record Wednesday night at WIP Studios, and you can find that on the Facebook page of the Go Birds Network. So you go to Go Birds on Facebook, and Wednesday night, 8 o'clock, we do a live podcast so you can watch it. And if you don't get a chance to see it, you can always watch it whenever on their Facebook page, or you can listen to it. And you can go to radio.com, do a search for Go Birds, and find the Inside the Birds podcast. I also put it on the Patreon website, so all the subscribers should be getting it once a week. In fact, I just posted it this morning. So get it if you have a chance. Listen to it. A lot of good, interesting stories and information from myself, from Adam Kaplan, and of course former Eagle Billy Osborne. All right, let's get to the questions now. I got a couple of questions today. First one starts from Chris Go Eagles 99, and he's got kind of a three-part question. And his first question is, how's Patreon going? And I think it's going really well. I'm happy with the number of people who have signed on. Pretty soon, once I reach 100, I'll be able to make a donation to the Wounded Warrior Foundation. So I'm excited about that. And in general, I'm enjoying covering the team and writing things that you're not getting on other websites. A lot of all 22 breakdown, a lot of analysis, some opinion, some hard news, a little bit of everything. So I'm doing it. I'm enjoying it, and I really like the interactive stuff that I'm doing, like this mailbag. The second question he says though is, why is the mailbag so short? The last one I did last week, or I'm sorry, the week prior. Last week was I skipped because of the Thursday night game. I think it was about 4 or 5 minutes. I'm not exactly sure how long it was, but I answered all the questions that I got. I'm sure the more questions that we have, like this week I have about 4 or 5, then these will be a little bit longer. But in general, I'm trying to keep these to be, viewer friendly and not make it an hour long mailbag. But thanks for your interest in it. The question Chris had was, if I were running the Eagles, would I trade for a running back or a left guard? So if you were to make me choose between running back or left guard, I would take running back. It's an area I think that you can always fortify. Whereas left guard right now, I think Isaac Seumalo has done a pretty good job since he's become the starter over Steph Wisniewski. Now, I didn't think Wisniewski was playing poorly at all. I think the whole line was struggling, and I think communication between Jason Peters and Wisniewski on twists and stunts wasn't great, and some of that was on Jason Peters as well. But Isaac Seumalo is bigger, stronger, more athletic. They've wanted him to start. They've waited for him to show that confidence and ability, and he's finally doing that. So I think it's good to have Wisniewski as your backup guard slash center who can come in, and clearly they won a Super Bowl with him. So I'm happy. I'm content. I think it's okay right now to have Seumalo at left guard and Wisniewski backing up. And they do have a rookie that they really like, the kid Matt Pryor that they drafted. He hasn't played yet. He's one of the two kids that they drafted on the offensive line, the other one being Jordan Mailata. And I think Pryor looked like he could play. He just hasn't had to yet. So I think their depth at left guard is going to be okay. Next question comes from Big Daddy Kane. What's going on, Big Daddy? He says, what's the tape like on Nigel Bradham and Jordan Hicks? It's been fairly consistent. Those guys are normally not players who have a lot of variance to their game. They usually play at a pretty good level week after week. The one thing I've noticed with them is I thought Hicks in particular was a little bit, about a step slow coming back from that injury for the first 2 or 3 weeks. Not so noticeable that he's missing tackles left and right. I just didn't think you'd seen the nose for the ball that you've seen in the past. And certainly you haven't seen a lot of turnover creation from Hicks until that Giants game where he was able to pick off the ball that was deflected by Grugier Hill. So going forward, I think he's going to continue to get his legs back. And I think Bradham's been consistent. Now, last year, Bradham had one of his best games against the Carolina Panthers on that Thursday night. It seemed like he made every third down tackle short of the sticks. So look for Bradham and look for Hicks to really be important players here for two reasons. One, because the Panthers like to throw the ball over the middle to McCaffrey, their running back, also to Greg Olson. So those guys will be active. But I assume with all the injuries that you've seen in the secondary, that Jim Schwartz may have to continue to play a two deep coverage. Now, Schwartz likes to play a lot of single safety high, but against the Giants, he played a lot of two safeties deep. And when you do that, you are basically surrendering an extra body in the box against the run. And so that intensifies the front six really to stop the run on its own with your two safeties deep and your four corners. Your two corners backed up. So Hicks and Bradham are going to have to be really active, and they're going to have to be probably the linchpins for this defense on Sunday against the Panthers. Next question comes from Janine J. She asked, "What's the depth like on the offensive line, and can the Eagles really survive with all this rotating?" The depth is okay because you have a guy like Wisniewski. Big V is not playing great, but there aren't a lot of teams that bring in a swing tackle off the bench and think that they're, really, really set at that position. So to have Wisniewski and to have Big V, two guys who helped them win a Super Bowl, is probably better depth-wise than most teams get. But in fairness, it's not good to keep rotating. It's not great that Jason Peters is dealing with a quad injury and the torn biceps that he'll be able to play through. It's not great that Lane Johnson has the high ankle sprain. And if both of those guys were to have to come out, and then you've got Big V playing one spot at left tackle, you may have to move Sam Aller to right tackle, then put Wisniewski back in left guard. The answer would be no. It would be very, very difficult to keep rotating like that and have to keep moving guys in and out. So hopefully the offensive line gets some stability here, as the games go along and those offensive tackles get healthier. Janine also asked, will Tim Jernigan play? There's a possibility he's going to play. There's always been a possibility that he would play this year, but I would say that it's not going to be anytime before Thanksgiving. He has not had any OTAs. He's not had any training camp. He's coming back from back surgery. He's not well conditioned, obviously, without any type of off-season activities or practice. So he's not even off NFI yet. Even if he were to come off next week, leading up to the Jaguars game, I would think he'd still need at least 2 weeks of practice to get into shape. And that's if he came off the list on Monday, which I have no inkling that he's going to do. Doug Peterson said he's kind of progressing, but Doug says that about everybody. So I would expect that if you do see Tim Jernigan back, it's probably closer to late November, early December. And I've said this all along from what I've heard. It was a pretty severe injury, and it wouldn't completely surprise me if he didn't play again all year. You got to remember, he had signed a long-term deal, and as soon as this injury happened, the Eagles forced him basically to either renegotiate his contract to where he gave back all the guaranteed money, or at least he wasn't on the hook for all the guaranteed money, or else they were going to cut him and go through the injury process where they were going to be able to recoup a lot of money. So he said, okay, I'll restructure, I'll change my contract, I'll give up a lot of the guaranteed money that was in the contract. So that just showed you how severe the injury was. So would he help? Would it be great if he's back? Yes. Is it reasonable to expect him to be back anytime in the next 2 or 3 weeks? No, I don't think so. Excuse me, our last question. Bobby in Chestnut Hill. He wants to look ahead already to the Jaguars game. And it's an interesting question because he asked about the flight to London, the long trip, dealing with the traffic at Heathrow. And Bob says, yes, the Jaguars have to deal with it too. But he has a little bit concerned about the Eagles doing this because it is their first time going over the pond. The Eagles are literally the last team that has been chosen to play, I believe, in England. So this will be the first time that they go over, and they'll have to adjust to it. The only thing that I can say that might be a little bit relatable for the Eagles is last year when they played Seattle and then LA in back-to-back weeks, and they stayed out there on the West Coast. Now, they lost the game to Seattle, but they had a good week of practice, and they came out, and obviously they beat the Rams, and Carson tore his ACL, and Nick came in and played well. They started slow on defense, but they really picked it up in the fourth quarter. I believe they held Todd Gurley to minus rushing yards in that fourth quarter to win that game. So they came out with they absolutely needed to win that game against the Rams to maintain their number one seed, and they did. And obviously Doug had them on the West Coast the whole time, so it was a little bit different. It was not what they traditionally do. And so you look forward. I'm sure Doug will have a plan for how he's going to treat these London games. I do remember Brian Westbrook saying when he went over there with the 49ers, and they were not good at the time. I'm pretty sure he said he noticed that, when you're not on a good team and you go out to London, you tend to get caught up in being in London and the nightlife and everything, and the game kind of becomes secondary. But clearly, that would not be good for the Eagles, and I'm pretty sure Doug will have them kind of dialed into the game. And I don't think the Eagles are in a position, even if they were to lose to the Panthers, that they're thinking their season's over or that game is not worth showing up to. So I don't have as many issues about them going there for the first time. I think Doug has figured out ways to kind of get through to his team when they face these non-traditional situations. And he also asks, what's up with the Jags? How could they have lost to the Cowboys like that, and why is their offense so bad this year? Oh, I think it's pretty simple. Last year they were a great defensive team, but B, they were able to run the ball on offense and give Blake Bortles manageable down and distance scenarios. Well, Leonard Fournette's been out a lot with a hamstring injury, and that's put more pressure on Bortles to have to carry the load. And anybody who's watched the Jaguars over the last few years knows that, Blake Bortles is not a top 5 quarterback. He's not going to carry a team by himself. So I think it's really hurting the Jags not to have Fournette. And if he doesn't play against the Eagles, that will be a big advantage for the Eagles. That's it for all the questions I've got. So don't be afraid to send me your questions immediately for next week after this game against the Panthers. You can start Sunday, Monday, whenever you want. Got a question, go to Patreon, message it to me, and by next Friday, I'll have them all answered in this mailbag. Also, you sports radio fans out there, make sure you listen to me on Saturday from 3 to 4 o'clock on WIP. It'll be me, Adam Kaplan, Billy Osborne. We do the Inside the Birds podcast. Well, we'll be doing Inside the Birds radio on WIP from 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock on Saturday, obviously previewing the Eagles-Panthers game. In the future, I'm going to be doing Mondays on 97.3 ESPN, which is Atlantic City, South Jersey, the Mike Gill Show from 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock. I'm going to be appearing with Mike Gill. Haven't hammered everything out yet, but I'm pretty sure it'll be Mondays from at least 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. So if you are in South Jersey, it's 97.3 on your FM dial. If you are not in South Jersey, you can download the app and stream. Mike Gill's a great host. Eitan Shander's at the station now. My former colleague at The Fanatic when I was there. We're now at 97.3, and we're doing a lot of good work. So I encourage everybody to go to the 97.3ESPN.com website, download the app, and listen to us when we're on. All right, that's going to do it for this week's mailbag. Thanks very much. Hope I answered all your questions, and I look forward to talking to everybody again next week.